guys doing? Welcome to Open Late. We're switching it up. We're doing it out here live. All right, guys, I'm not gonna waste any time. We're gonna do an Open Late live right now. I'm gonna bring out one of my favorite people to talk to. He reps the Bay, generally good dude, guy who loves the culture. You may know him as Gerald. Make some noise for G-Eazy, ComplexCon. One more time for G-Eazy, y'all. So, Gerald?
Yeah.
How are you, man?
I'm doing fabulous, amazing.
I think the last time I interviewed you was album week.
Yeah.
For the last record.
Yeah, it went like a time machine, like a blur, like just.
How long has it been since the album came out?
10 months. I've been on tour for 9 of it, more or less.
So I remember talking to you like many years ago after the first album, and you'd been like steady building, and you talked about the idea of getting like, you know, having like a hit.
Yeah.
And then you've had a hit, like you really, No Limits, you had a big record.
Yeah.
Did it feel impactful at the time when you finally had a record that was playing on the radio all the time?
I mean, not even to just say this to you, but it felt impactful when I was driving to New York, like hearing it on Hot 97. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the amount of times I was hearing it and just that, like I think we always kind of idolized New York City growing up on the West Coast. In the Bay, that felt like a million miles away. And obviously music travels different now than it did, you know, whenever, but like the world's so connected through, you know, through everything. So, you know, but being out there, like really in New York like that and hearing it that much was like, whoa, is this like, is life different now? You know what I'm saying? Like this is hella different, like that's crazy.
But is it actually, like once it settled down?
Nah, radio's like, you know, radio is still extremely important, and radio changed my entire life. Like having the Me, Myself, and I on like more of like a crossover side, you know, that took me around the world. Like I'm in Paris and that's playing on the radio nonstop. And I'm like, you know, seeing like sold out crowds in Switzerland, you know what I'm saying? Like singing word for word, or like places in Asia, you know, like the power of radio to just broadcast and connect and really like a song is like a, you know, can be this rocket ship or like a missile that puts your whole career on its back and takes you to a higher level. It's crazy how you can make 1,000 songs, but if one song that's 3 minutes and 30 seconds can mess around and change your entire life, of like if it's really impactful and really travels and transcends and goes that far, you know what I'm saying? And the power of radio, like taking it there, so it was crazy.
Yeah, I always say about radio, because, you know, listen, even though I've worked in radio for a long time, I've also, in working in it, I'm probably more aware of its flaws than most people, and I'm not always defensive
What are the flaws?
of it. Well, I mean,
what you see as like?
First of all, I mean, in order to keep an audience, it's like baseball. It's like analytics. You know what I'm saying? Analytics have basically proven that in order to keep a radio audience, you want less diversity in music, not more.
That's crazy.
So when I first was on the radio in like 2001, let's say, right? And Jay-Z put out I Just Want to Love You.
Yeah.
That record at that time would have been, if it was in really heavy rotation, it might have gotten 80 spins a week.
That was heavy rotation?
What did No Limit get to?
I mean, it's 800,000. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying.
Like, so on one station.
I don't even think there's that many minutes.
No, exactly. It's not.
No Limit.
I would say, I'm assuming a record like No Limit that becomes like an A, like a mainstay record. You're talking about a record getting played instead of 80 times a week, it's like 150 or 200 times a week.
Yeah.
So when you add that up over time, throughout the day, you're not hearing that much different music.
Yeah, it's a lot. And it's like, you know, if you're somebody who spends a lot of time in, you know, Ubers or just listening to the radio, it's like, you know, it gets to be very like, okay. Like it got to the point where I was hopping an Uber and it would come on and I would just be like, hey, can you switch this? Like, I'm not really trying to hear this.
I can't do it anymore.
You know, nah.
It
was cool like the first like 5 times, like, hey, this is me, turn it up. You know, after you know.
What do you find, because you've obviously achieved a lot of different stuff, and what do you find these days actually makes you happy?
Man, honestly, my biggest thing was like, and this is kind of a cliche or like whatever, but it's real, was taking care of my mom's. Like she She's a teacher, so she never made much, and she got laid off by her job. She's got chronic pain, so she was taking a lot of medical benefits, from the school, and that kind of played a role into it, and it was hard for her to get another job after that. And I knew at that time, I had to go, and my music hadn't taken off yet. I wasn't signed, nothing. And I was, it's like, at a point, you're kind of looking at yourself and your music and your aspirations and your dreams. Is this childish? Grow up, bro. There's jobs out there. You can go, you know what I'm saying? You're still, because you're losing money, not only losing money with the time you're spending to make this time you could be spending at a job or just making do or whatever. You're losing money because it takes money to make money. So it's studio time's not for free. Music videos are definitely not for free. You're reinvesting, putting everything back in, and you're not getting nothing out of it. At a point, as a grown-ass man, you got to mature and go handle your business and take care of yours. And I was just at that point, it's gonna happen now or it's not, and committed to it. And every time, she's flying out here today. I had my house redone while I was on tour. So I got guest rooms and stuff, and I'm so excited to pick her up at the airport in the Ferrari, take her to it, you know what I'm saying, have her at the crib, be able
Does she care about the Ferrari part?
She'll probably put the seatbelt on and be like, oh my God, driving a little slower. For me, so, you know what I'm saying, being able to put her in a house, and send her money and just give her club money. Here goes this cash, you know what I'm saying? And she's like, well, what do I do with all this? Buy some weed, have fun, just do your thing.
What else though, besides being able to take, do you have any, I don't know, do you take random time and play video games, or do you?
Nah, I'm not not video games per se, but time off, time to be Gerald, I'm finally starting to do that. And I think what's happened, over the past, forever is this industry will break an artist down. It's you don't really get time to be a person or yourself or away from, tour. And it's you work so hard to be able to be in a position to get these opportunities, you know what I'm saying? And then once they start coming in, they're coming in and it's hard to say no. It's I thought I had a speech impediment for a long time. I couldn't say no. And every tour, every show, every flight the next day at 6 a.m. after you couldn't say no to picking up, you know what I'm saying, an extra bag for the after party after doing a show, after doing a 200-person meet and greet early in the day, after doing 3 interviews at 3 different stations. You know what I'm saying? It adds up and it takes a toll. And all that work is what you get back out of it, you know what I'm saying? And I've been a hard worker. I'm conditioned, but at a point, you gotta find a way to step back and do things that make you happy from a personal side, because otherwise it's you might not have much to give for how long, So just finding things that make you happy. I went to Hawaii and just kicked it. I went to Italy, that was fire,
I thought you showed something very exciting this year that I'd never expected with you. I was on vacation this summer when out of nowhere you dropped a heat rock coming at MGK's neck. And
is that where you're going with this?
Well, I gotta tell you, listen, even though we talked about it right afterwards.
Yeah.
You said, Funk Flex had taken some shots at you, so you fired some back in kind. And so you and I discussed that, obviously, because it's complex. You have, no pun intended, you have other relationships at Hot 97, myself and other people, et cetera. But I will tell you, I was impressed with that record, man. I didn't know necessarily that was something that G-Eazy had up his sleeve, was a really detailed shot fired at someone. Was that something you wanted to do? Unrelated to him.
Well, yeah, unrelated to him, sure. I used to watch Smack DVDs, and I've always been a fan of battling and lyricism and diss songs or whatever. But yeah, that was just, it's not the first time 2 people went at each other. It's definitely not the last. That's the sport of hip hop, you know what I'm saying?
Did you feel that you got the credit you wanted for what you did?
I don't know. That's not why I do it. I just had to get something off my chest one night. I was frustrated, and that happened, and here we are.
Now you had sent me a couple of songs over text that you were working on, some freestyles and things of that nature. Seemed like you were really getting back to the classics.
Yeah, because that'll always be me. My favorite era of hip hop will always be mid-90s. Illmatic, Midnight Marauders, old Big L and
this coming
Kiss and
this coming week is 25 years since Midnight Marauders.
That's crazy.
25 years. Yeah.
Man, I'm getting old. That's wild.
Who put you on to good hip hop?
Shit, just my big bros growing up, you know what I'm saying? My older friends, because, so I was born 89, you know? 94 I'm 5 years old, you know? Didn't really have like the musical palette yet, or like the mind to understand it, you know what I'm saying? So as I'm getting older, it was my older homies, it was like, you know, gave me that like hard copy of Illmatic that was hella old that I like studied like a little kid sitting there, and you know what I'm saying, like took in, so yeah.
Do you ever feel that, sometimes I get like nervous almost on your behalf because you found mainstream success. I always knew that when mainstream found you, they would fall in love, right?
Yeah.
For sort of obvious reasons that you're keenly aware of. Like you are a very thoughtful hip hop fan. You understand what the game is about. You and I have had conversations about being white guys in hip hop and the advantages and disadvantages that can come with that. But you having the look you had, you being this tall handsome white boy rapper.
Yeah, wearing a leather jacket with combed hair. Like,
did it ever concern you like that once the mainstream sort of got their claws in you, they would try to own you too much?
I think, well, nah, nobody can own me. I'm just like myself. Like I'm very fiercely like, I like am who I am unapologetically, and I have, you know, my vision, my goal of like my values, what I care about in life, what I want to achieve, what I want to contribute, what I want to give. And I think a firm, strong understanding and knowledge of self will always fuel you, even in the whirlwind and tornadoes of confusion of like being misunderstood. And if you want to be an artist, then you will be misunderstood. That is just inherently what comes with it. You know what I'm saying? You can't make everybody happy, and that's a cliche, but it's fucking true. Like you can't. So if you're somebody who like sits there reading every comment on Instagram and takes to heart what an 11-year-old in North Dakota is saying about you, you know what I'm saying? Like then you're gonna be unhappy. You know what I'm saying? So you have to have this knowledge of self that's like, you know, maybe this side isn't gonna get it or this side isn't gonna get it, but like I know myself, and it's easier said than done. It's hard to navigate sometimes, but it's a balance. Like if anybody's ever listened to like any of my albums or like a real body of work, is like, okay, it's not gonna be a linear like sound experience. It's gonna like, you know, sometimes I'm on my hyphy tempos and, you know what I'm saying, taking my influence of where I grew up in the Bay. Sometimes it's like the, you know, introspective, atmospheric, slow down stuff. Sometimes it's the like, you know, leans pop or whatever. Sometimes it's no limit. Sometimes it's, you know, and this is all like a concoction of my Gemini, my ingredients, my like different ways I express myself, different things I'm influenced and inspired by, you know? So it's like, it's tough to gauge or like what, you know what I'm saying, how people feel, because it's like, I place an emphasis on, you know, the ears and the minds that I respect. Like you are one of those OGs that I like look at in the culture of somebody who's been around forever, you know what I mean, and still matters and still relevant and still is like in it. You know, when I send you my stuff and you're like, yo, this is fire, I'm like, okay. You know, like when I get calls from like the artists that I look up to, you know, and talk to them about stuff, that's what, you know, not the 11-year-old in North Dakota. Nothing against North Dakota, it's a great place. I don't even know if that's where
G-Eazy attacks 11-year-olds in North Dakota.
I'm going to war.
How dialed in are you on social media?
Man, social media is like a weird thing. Like, I think a certain amount of it is important to just staying tapped in, like, and being in touch, you know? And it's important to, like, stay self-aware and know your temperature of, like, how people are feeling about you and what you're doing, you know? But at the same time, you can't let that, you know, like, you can make you go
corrode
crazy.
the way you
and
see
I have
yourself.
artist friends that I watch, like, like, have sit there, like, you know, had, like, anxiety attacks or, like, gone crazy reading what people are saying about them and feeling, like, so misunderstood. And it's like, yo, like, don't let that ruin your day, like, you know.
Yeah, I'm 2 weeks into a social media hiatus. I've been talking about doing it forever.
It's hard. I mean, like.
Well, by the way, people make a big deal about it. It's like, are you okay? It's like, bro,
and that's
it's an app.
like, that's crazy. Like, if you don't post for a couple weeks or something, it's like, what's up with, like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm worried, I gotta check on, like, yo, like, I'm just not,
It's
like.
an app, bro. Like, we all need to settle down.
I try to, like, I did this once, actually, I'm not gonna lie. One day, I I was gonna make it a thing. Maybe I'll start again tomorrow. Like when I first wake up, to not check my phone. You know what I'm saying? To get up and let it be like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours without checking my phone. And that one day, I was like, I don't know why I haven't done it again. It's addictive, for real.
Well,
like,
no,
you know
I remember.
like, and you're so like conditioned, you know what I'm saying? And so like overexposed, like, yeah, like I'm trying to wake up and see some girls in bikinis when I scroll the gram and try to like I don't know.
But here's the fucked up part about it. And Cypher Sounds once put me onto it. I would get to work at the morning show, and I would have already in the cab been reading social media.
Yeah.
And Cypher was like, yo, you realize that before you have your first original thought for the day, you're seeing what other people's thoughts are?
That's crazy.
And think about how many of us do that. Like, we have not had a clear thought yet. You're blurry-eyed, haven't thought of shit yet, and you're scrolling to be like, well, what are other people doing?
Yeah.
Like, that's just inherently so messed up.
Yeah.
And like my mom dropped a gem last night.
What she said?
I was dropping the same science
Share the
to her.
game, please. Mom's always got the
Mindy,
game.
my mom, Mindy Rosenberg said, she said, Peter, it's not social media, it's anti-social media.
Man, shouts out to Mindy, man. One time, for real, that's some game.
And I was like, she was like, it's teaching people how to be anti-social, not social. And I was like, yo, this is crazy. So I'm gonna, listen, I'm on the radio 8 fucking hours a day. How much do people need me? Like, I just feel like, I get why artists need to get their message out, because if you go quiet for a while, it's like, well, I wanna be able to let people know.
And it's also like, I don't know, it's a weird like split, because ever since it's become a tool to like, you know, market and promote and distribute your music and your content and your, you know what I'm saying, managing your relevance and all this, it becomes like everybody's involved in it from your team of like, we need to be posting this much or this, that, and the other. And it's like, y'all, like, this is not just like, this is actually my life also, you know what I'm saying? By the way, like, I don't like go home and take the uniform off. You know what I'm saying?
It's all the time.
Take the skin off, you know what I'm saying? I was just like, you know, at my job 9 to 5, and now I come home from it. Nah, like, that's my life. Like, you know, and that's a crazy thing to think about. Like,
yeah, I mean, listen, I don't like having pity parties for celebrities, but it does make it, it does make it different though. I'm, in many ways, I'm like, people have, you know, 300 followers, their friends, their family, like a lot of people here, it's your friends and family who follow you. You can actually enjoy social media for what it is.
Yeah.
It's a little bit less judgment. I think there's more fun there. Now, something that I know means a lot to you is your philanthropic work. Tell me a little bit about the Endless Summer Fund.
Yeah, so we started this Endless Summer Fund, and, you know, like, I was on this big tour all summer long, and it was like, honestly, the best tour I'd ever done in my life. The whole bill was eclectic. It was like, it felt like a little festival every day. It was me, it was Uzi, Ty Dolla $ign, YBN Amir, and P-Lo, Murder Beats. Like, you got all this music all day, and it's like at the amphitheaters where, you know, these kids come with their big groups of friends, and, you know what I'm saying, it's like a big summer thing. So we were like, all right, you got all this attention, like, what can you do to, like, you have them, what, you know, can you steer them in any direction? So we had like booths around the venue, like Register to Vote here, you know what I'm saying? And then we had like another booth that was collecting donations for the Endless Summer Fund, and every night we'd pick random winners to come back and meet me after the show and get to talk or whatever. And I met like some really interested fans that way, but by the end of the tour, we had raised over $100,000. And I myself, along with Puma, had also put in $50,000 and donated it to Larkin Street, which is one of the oldest and biggest homeless centers for the youth in the Bay Area that's LGBT friendly, and it's like, you know, really helps empower these kids of like reaching their full potential. And it's just something that I've always been passionate about, is like, you know, trying to, you know, find ways to do things that, you know, do good for other people that can like leverage this platform that I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to have, you know, to just share that with the right people.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I know there was probably, you guys are doing all this amazing work, and you're out on tour doing shows every night, and then we find out that we lost Mac Miller.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to you since then.
Yeah.
Besides personally just losing someone who was so great for this culture and as a human being, what was it like, all you guys being together, these artists, dealing with this?
It was really hard, really, 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 really hard. I was, me and him had gotten like really close this summer, particularly. I think maybe just the parallels of what he and I had been kind of going through at similar times in our lives, of like in our personal lives, you know, and balancing that with your career in music, when sometimes it's like feels like, you know, an immovable schedule, or like the life that you're like living here, but then this is going on in your personal life and all eyes are on that and people talking about it and your relationships or whatever. And, you know, I know Ty's really close with him, and, you know, Uzi, like all of us, like that day was so hard. I was in my meet and greet, and I damn near turned up on my team about it, because if I'd have known, like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I didn't know, I hadn't been on my phones, and I'm like, I see Ty like really emotional. I'd never seen him like that, and I'm like, the hell did I just see Ty? Like what's going on? Everybody was being funny, and as soon as my meet and greet was over, they walked me to my dressing room and wouldn't tell me until we got in, and they told me, and it like hit me like really, 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 really heavily. And you know, we had a show to do that night, and it just felt like, how do you get up there and do this on this night, you know? And like had to really dig deep to find a way to do it, and to talk about it in the right way, to like honor somebody who had given the world so much through his voice. You know, that's the thing, as artists, we give a lot of us, like ourselves, our person, our life, our experience, to the world, to every fan we meet, to every, you know, song we create that affects somebody. That's like giving yourself to it. And he had given a lot of really amazing, powerful, beautiful stuff in the messages of his music and his, you know, his whole entire existence, and every person he'd met and touched.
Yeah, not to mention the amount of people that got on because of him.
Right.
I mean, like if you were to go, you know, talk to Vince Staples about the change, that how much Mac Miller changed Vince Staples, and I don't want to speak out of school because Vince and I talked about it privately, but like Vince's ability to trust other people, simply because Mac believed in him, just like, oh, you're the man, you got to rap, you need beats, I need to give you beats, you need studio time, like that's the kind of person.
We dropped an amazing album, by the way.
Yeah, I know, I haven't gotten to sit with his new album.
Yeah.
Shout out to Vince Staples too.
Yeah, man. I mean, like it's one of those situations where it's like, it really is what people say. Like, he affected so many people in such a powerful way by being such like, you know, like a pure, amazing soul and spirit. And like, you know, you hear it in the music and everything, and he opened so many doors. And like, you know, at that time and era when he came up, and the whole, you know, idea of like what we take as, you know, is common now, but like, you know, independently coming up, making a buzz, and touring and touring and touring and touring and touring and touring, and meet and greets and meet and greets and meet and greets and merch and the culture of tour, and like, you know,
and putting other people onto those tours so they learned it too. Yeah,
like that era of like Spitta and like Wiz and like real powerful independent hip hop, like garnering a buzz in the blog era of like the internet, when, you know, Two Dope Boys and all that was everything, and like, you know, was that, and, you know, and had like a great career, you know. And yeah, it was a hard day, man. It was like getting up on stage at night and like not just breaking down. It was difficult, you know, but
yeah, I was in the middle of the radio show.
It was like I think it was like a good, powerful like moment for the fans, you know.
To release. All right, let's pick it up. Let's do something a little bit more upbeat. I know, sorry, I had to get emotional. It's Mac. I mean, make some noise if you were affected by Mac Miller in some way in your life. But G-Eazy is here. Let's dig in the crates with G-Eazy, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna pull a record out.
Yeah.
And you're gonna tell me your thoughts on said album, all right? Let's start.
Are you Nardwuar now?
No, this isn't Nardwuar. That would be like, it would be way more, that would be way more surprising. Require
man,
a lot more
I never got
work.
my Nardwuar interview when I was.
You haven't had Nardwuar?
Man, no, I've never had a Nardwuar.
No, we need that.
Yeah, somebody called, wow. Okay, so.
You know, he works much harder than I do. This is just Lil Wayne. This is just the Carter 3.
Yeah, man.
Your thoughts?
Okay, so I moved to New Orleans when I was 18 years old. It was, I wasn't like, necessarily on a path to go to college. It was my grandma who really pushed me, and I applied a couple places, and I got into one school, and it was in New Orleans, and that was in 2007, and you know, it was right before this dropped. So this dropped my freshman year, my first year living in New Orleans, and you know, during this, it's like Drought Is Over 2 and 3, like that mixtape era. Wayne was like peak lyricism, peak, and then you're going to his city, and I'm talking about like being aware of somebody's impact. I've never felt nothing like that. I'm talking about like every car in New Orleans that you heard driving past was like,
I didn't realize you were there at that time. 'Cause that's really neat to be in the city of an artist who most represents that city in the absolute prime of his career.
Absolute prime.
Like that is it.
Peak prime, and just being in a moment, in a cultural moment that was so powerful, so special, and changed hip hop forever. Because like what Wayne really did at that time with the success of this album, selling 1 million copies first week, going on to do arena tours, putting hip hop in arenas, you know what I'm saying, on that level, was crazy. And the success of this album, you know, and then admittedly at the time, I think I was, you know, maybe a little naive and young to fully understand, because I wanted like La La, Lil Wayne, like lyricism, 316s, and like, you know what I'm saying, punchlines every line. And when Lollipop came out, I think it was like, it confused me just a little. I didn't get it fully, but that's what crossed him over and allowed him to transcend into this like mega superstar space, you know what I'm saying, and ultimately put everything else on his back and carried everything to the highest of levels.
Might be the reason, without Lollipop, you never know if Drake and Nicki are the same age.
Right. And that ability to like, to, you know, to balance both sides, but just do it right.
What's your favorite record on here?
I mean, a Milli. But I brought him out at Coachella, and so I toured with Lil Wayne when I first got signed, but we did all the same amphitheaters I did this summer. So it was, you know, all these same venues, but I was coming back as a headliner.
Right.
But at that time, I was the first act on. So it was me, then it was Audio Push and Hit Boy. No, Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner, the boxer, he was rapping that summer. Yeah. And I swear,
I was like, I just had a moment where I was like, yeah, Adrian Broner,
nah,
the rapper.
He's the homie. He was
not a
cool.
rapper, he is a boxer.
And it was me, then it was Adrian Broner, then it was Audio Push.
Yo, you opened up before Adrian Broner?
Yeah, I'm opening up before Adrian Broner. And then it was 2 Chainz, and then it was T.I., and then it was Wayne. And I didn't meet Wayne that whole summer. Like, I don't even know if he knew I was on tour. Like, yeah, man, I was like, I never saw him. It was like the Wizard of Oz. Like, he was that level of superstar. I didn't know if he was real or if he just like folded into a box and they brought him out to perform or something. And his level of like mystique and enigma and superstar, like aura, like I would go out to the crowd like and watch his show every single night, you know, and like just be in awe, like taking my notes and studying or whatever, but like being as a fan, just like watching and being like, wow, like that's crazy, that's really Wayne.
And that's an amazing experience for artists to get early on, the opening for a huge act when you're on first and you're performing in front of a tenth of the audience.
So the venues hold like between 10 and 20,000 people. That's a lot of seats, right? When I went on, there was like 200 people in there. Yeah. And
they were like, getting food.
There's like maybe like probably 100 people in here, you know, but the room holds like 120, something like that. You know what I mean? So imagine this many people scattered throughout like a huge like Coliseum. It's like, hello out there.
And you're trying to reach, and you're just trying to reach.
And I'm like, stand up, make some noise. It's like, no.
This is my new hit single.
Yeah, man.
All right. Speaking of
humbling.
Yeah, it's a really good experience to start with. Speaking of
classic
mystique
album. Man.
And superstar status.
One of the biggest albums of all time. I was in the 5th grade when this came out, and I had see back then like getting music was harder. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like going to Tower Records, it was $20. I had like, you know, $10, so I gotta wait. You know what I mean? Like I had the Slim Shady LP I had traded like a friend in 4th grade, I think, for it. I gave him 400 degrees.
For the record, if you've never traded a CD, you don't love music.
You don't love music. Yeah.
If you never had some,
you couldn't even burn them like that. It wasn't. You really had to like trade the actual thing with the jewel case.
And like sometimes you make a really ill-advised one. Like you look back on it later.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, damn, I traded the whole Fugees album for that Craig Mack song. My best friend did that. He was like, damn.
I traded him, I think it was 400 degrees for the Slim Shady LP.
You know what? That's a very good trade. That's an even trade.
So, but when this one dropped, I had it for myself. And man, just like, you know, you think about looking back on it, what, you know, from a hip hop perspective and lyricism and, you know, obviously commercial success and everything, he balanced everything. And it was like, you know, it was shock value. It was like nothing else, but it was brilliant. And to be that different, but to be that respected, you know, was man, he changed everything forever. You know, I had my hair bleached like that, you know what I mean? Like when I was 10, you know.
Yo, you should do it again, bro.
Yeah.
Just kidding, don't do that.
I'm halfway back. Yeah, man, I mean, and still to this day, I think a real true sign of like great music, and this goes for any genre, but like it's how does it age? Like you could come out and have like the biggest first week or the biggest buzz or the, you know, be like talked about at that level, but like, you know, when you live with that music for a year and then 5 years and then 10 years and then, you know what I'm saying, really being able to go back to it. And music is a nostalgic thing. It's like smells, or it's like when you go back to your elementary school or something, it brings you back to that time in your life, like, or that relationship you were in, or that, like, you know what I'm saying, that car you had or whatever. Like, my mom's Saturn station wagon had the CD player on top with the tape deck that you put in with the connected, like, this was stayed in there.
Oh, you had the Discman that ran through the cassette?
Connected to the, our car didn't come with the CD player.
Yes, you had to, and nothing was worse than a Discman in a car.
Yeah.
It said it had the anti-skip.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's crazy, yeah. Classic.
Have you gotten to meet M at all?
Yeah, I met M, and he was kind of like the last one that I hadn't met. You
met Hove?
Yeah, I had dinner with Hove. That was the craziest experience of my life.
Where was that?
I was in the studio in New York finishing When It's Dark Out, and it was like the last few days to turn it into the label or whatever. And one of my managers, G. Robertson, like, he hits me like, yo, like, I'm gonna pick you up. We gotta go to dinner. I'm like, nah, it's all good. Like, I gotta stay in and work and get this done. He's like, nah, we're going to dinner. I'm like, bro, like, you want me to work? I'm trying to, like, work. Like, he's like, trust me, we're going to dinner. And I was fighting him. And finally, I'm like, whatever. And we're driving around. He's not saying nothing in the car. We pull up to some, like, steakhouse out of a gangster movie. The spot was so fire. And he just, like, we walk in and he says to, like, the hostess lady, she's like, can I help you? She's like, yeah, we're at Sean Carter's table. And I'm like, the fuck? Like, you didn't want to tell me that? Like, bro, like, and I'm bugging, like, and we're walking to the table and it's just Hove, and he stands up and he daps me up. He's like, hey, man, nice to meet you. Like, I fuck with you, like, real shit. Like, and just sat down and, yeah, just talked about, like, basketball and gangster movies and Suge Knight. It was fire. It's like,
okay,
yeah. But anyway, so, like, yeah.
How'd the
like,
Eminem one go down?
So, it was like an award show, I think, and he was in his trailer that was like kind of by mine, and they just came and knocked on my door and they were like, yo, Em, I'll meet you now. Like, you gotta come right now. You have like 60 seconds or something like that. I was like, what? All right, fine. Like, and I walked over there and I was like, fuck, what do I say? Like, I don't know, you know? And man, it was another experience. I just like, you know, walked in there, I shook his hand and he was like, yo, you're dope, bro. Like, you know, you're doing good, bro. I fuck with you. Like, yeah, like, you're tight. And we talked for a couple minutes and shit. Like, what do you say? It's Em, like, you know. Fuck, man, you know, thank you, bro, respect, like, much love. And it's like, you know, as a kid, as a fan, just growing up, like, in the culture, like, looking at, these are your superheroes, your idols, you're like, you know, and then you get in the game and, you know, like, they're human beings too, you know, and, like, you meet them and it's, like, crazy.
I always think, the way I always describe this, and I hope it never comes off as like a knock to anyone, because it's not, it just, to me, sums up the differences. If Jay-Z showed up to ComplexCon right now while we were all up here, you could practically feel his energy coming into the arena.
Oh, yeah,
He has huge, like, powerful human being energy. And Eminem, first time I met Eminem, he literally crept up behind me And I just turned around, he was just standing there. And I was like, that's Eminem. He's standing right here. And it just shows like, they're both brilliant, but they're so different.
You want to know who has the biggest aura in the world who I've ever seen or been
Don't
in the
embarrass me and
presence
say
of?
me. Keep going.
Yeah, you split apart the sea when you walk in. Like, this guy is insane.
Who?
Rihanna. Like, it was like out of a movie, like, and it was the Rock Nation brunch, and it was like a cloudy day, and I'm outside, and you get where I'm going. She walked through these doors, and literally the room split and the sun came out the clouds and beamed down on Rihanna, and she was just glowing, and I want to say she walked straight to me. I think she talked to some other people first. But I was in a daze, and she ended up coming up to me, and I was like, "Hi, I'm Gerald." She was like, "Oh yeah, you're special. I like you. What's up?" Da, 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 da. Like,
she said you were special.
I'm probably putting it on extra things. She probably was like, "Oh, what's up? Nice to meet you."
She said, "You're special. I like you. We should be friends. How are you? Here's my number."
No, I'm in love with you. Let's get married.
I don't remember. It was weird.
Man, yeah. Yeah, like for real, dead ass. Like the sun didn't have to do that. Come on, like that was crazy. Like literally, the cloud. You should have seen it. Should have been.
Have you spent any time with Rick Rubin?
I still haven't met him. Nah.
Rick Rubin, this is a true story. Rick Rubin is a big wrestling fan, okay? So I became friends with Rick Rubin through wrestling, not because he respects me in music at all, simply because he listened to my wrestling podcast. So we became friendly, and he invited me out to his house. And I went out to his place, and I swear to God, he literally floated through the air. I turned around.
I saw that Zen, like,
he literally was just like, you turned around, you heard nothing, and he was just sitting right there with incredible skin. He has the skin of an angel. It's unbelievable. AG, this has been fun, man.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll look for a project sometime soon, a mixtape, something?
Absolutely. I'm figuring out how I want to roll it out, man. I got a lot of stuff in the works. I was in the Bay. I went home for a minute to just be home and just recorded my favorite studio in Oakland, and I was working with All Black. Was one of my favorite rappers out the Bay in a minute, bro. He's a real, like, special, weird dude, like, crazy, like, talented, but, like, you know what I'm saying, like, coming with stuff that's just like, how'd you think of that? Like, he's hella talented. Was in there with Pilo, Rex Like Raj, like, you know, just working on a bunch of stuff back home. I feel like I want to come back to, like, you know, like, a place of, like, my origins, both creatively and sonically and just, like, you know, energy-wise.
All right, and one last question. If you had to choose, you're forced to choose Steph, Clay, KD, or Draymond. You have to choose.
Boogie, big Boogie. Nah, like, you can't make me pick, man. It's really hard, but, like, I feel like, man. Yeah, I mean, like, Steph, like, you know, like, Steph and Clay really built the culture of that team. And Mark Jackson, shouts out. Like, he, you know what I'm saying? Steve Kerr's come in and done an amazing job. And it's like, you know, but Mark Jackson really helped turn around the culture of the team, I think. And, you know, Steph and Clay, like, kind of like changing the game of basketball and, you know, being, you know, the two of the greatest shooters to ever play at the same time, like on the same team at that, you know, changed their whole attack.
Yo, how crazy is it that Klay Thompson is the third best player on that team?
Man, some nights he's the best.
And some nights he's the best.
That's Headband Clay. Like, he went dumb.
I think that's fair, though. I think Steph and Clay are probably the ones that we will always think of as most synonymous with.
Splash Brothers, like, that era was crazy, you know, but Draymond is, you know, that's my guy. Like, he's the heart and soul, you know, like, and the grit, you know, and like but then KD's like fucking D. Like, what?
How often do you kick it with E40 at a Warriors game?
Man, I love going to games with Unc. That's one of my favorite things to do.
I mean, how much of a blessing is that? That you get to say going to games with Unc, and you're talking about going with E40 to watch the world champion Golden State Warriors as a rapper.
Those are the kind of moments, man. And it's like, I will never, ever, like, stop being a fan. I will never, like, you know, like, when, I don't know, like, you're so cool that's not cool. Like, that's always gonna be cool. Like, I'm sitting, like, on the wood, like, with a rapper I grew up listening to, idolized, you know what I'm saying? And, like, I'm watching our team. Like, I grew up, like, so every year for Christmas, my mom would we'd go to one game, and it'd be nosebleed tickets, you know, and it'd be Antoine Jameson's Warriors. And no disrespect to Antoine Jameson, but that was, like, what we had. That was all we had. Like, you know, we didn't make the playoffs forever. you know, so how it all changed up and being aware of like being present in the moment, I think is an important thing. And just being like,
hey, listen, thank you for making time. ComplexCon, make some noise for G-Eazy. All right, AraabMuzik, what you got?
Hey, yo, Arab, what we doing, huh?